Hello, I'm John Feigenbaum, and I'm glad to host you today to the Greysheet Market Report. It's May 11, 2020. I have some really interesting special guests today, starting with Ursula Kampmann, my eyes on the ground in Europe, specifically in Germany. And she has an incredible special guest that she's brought on today, named Ulrich Künker, who is the president of Künker Auctions in Germany. They have one of the strongest reputations of all European auction houses. And Ulrich is coming on today to discuss something they call the Imperial Collection, which is one of the most exciting coin collections ever coming to market in Europe. I feel like we say that quite a bit these days, but this one really might hold the cake. He's got a collection that was assembled by Frederick Wilhelm I, who was the imperial ruler of Germany in the late 1800s. And was also a well-known coin collector. And he has finally, how long has it been now? 150 years or so, and this collection is finally coming to market. Ulrich is going to explain to us how this all came to pass, how the first installment is coming to sell in June in Germany, and so everyone can go learn from this and maybe even bid. I think there's, some tremendous coins, so you'll need deep pockets. But we're going to learn some great history along the way, so that's really fun. Now, in the meantime, I just want to catch you up on a little bit about what I've been up to. So I had a super fun week last week. I spent a few days in Washington, D.C. with Jeff Garrett and Paul Hollis, our newest mint director. So we had the extreme pleasure to accompany Paul to the Smithsonian Museum to view the National Numismatic Collection, or the NNC. And it was Paul's first visit since becoming mint director. Not at all his first visit. He's been there a lot. He's a true coin collector at heart. And it was just amazing to see the back room of the Smithsonian. We get this private tour in the back, and to watch him examine these incredible coins that most of us have never seen in our lives before. Things like half union $50 gold pieces, quintuple stellas. I saw some original things I'd never seen before, like the controversial 1964 special mid-set coins are clearly different, and they have examples of these coins in the collection. They even have coins in there like 1963 Franklins that look like special mid-set kind of coins. I don't know how these things exist. So there's always something to learn when you go to the Smithsonian. And thanks to the hard work of Jeff Garrett, who has been a very strong liaison from the numismatic community over to the museum itself, he's done a lot to get donors and private donors and things like that. And the museum exists on private donors. So if you're watching today and you're the kind of person who would support the National Numismatic Collection, please let me hear from you or contact Jeff directly. We'll put you in touch with the right folks over at the collection. And either way, we can get you a back tour, get you introduced to the right people. It's amazing. We looked at some incredible coins, and it was just so much fun to see it. Switching gears to the rare coin market at the moment, strong. In a word, strong. Everything is strong. People are telling me dealers are saying they can't get enough coins. Too hard to find inventory. They're paying premiums over Greysheet on a regular basis. They're begging me in some cases, John, you got to raise Greysheet all over the place. Well, if I raise Greysheet all over the place without specific numbers, all I'm going to do is cause everybody to still quote 10, 20% higher than Greysheet. It's just going to make it frothier. So we are working hard at Greysheet to raise levels where we see trades, where we see bids, and we see, sustained activity. But you can be sure that if you're trying to buy coins today, especially in the, let's say, $50 to $1,000 price range, $2,000, $10,000, you're going to pay over Greysheet. Now, there's also $1 million coins that are selling. I was told of numerous items that sold at Central States, like 1792 half Ismies, things like that, real rarities, selling for 30% more than what we have them listed at with calc stickers. So we've actually raised some of those areas where I get, good, reliable information. I act on it. But Shield Nickels and MS65, I mean, Jeff specifically told me, he'd sold a wholesale deal at, I think, $410, where Greysheet was $360. Okay, that's the kind of information we use here, and we raise bids to $410. So that's going on left and right. There's a lot of pressure on the buy side. people can't find coins, and apparently these kind of live marketplaces like Whatnot or TikTok or eBay Live, these areas are putting a lot of pressure because more collectors are being exposed to collector coins than ever before, and people are really feeling that numismatics is a better place to put your money, maybe than in cards or other collectibles that have traditionally or are very strong. I mean, the card market is many, many millions of collectors. So all we need is this like tiny amount of collectors to spill over and we win. But we got to be careful here. So we're very conservative at Greysheet when we talk about reporting on the market, when we talk about investing, and we want you to be careful as a buyer. So please, and buy wisely, work with a dealer you trust, and pay attention to the market and buy from very reliable sources, including the one we're going to talk to today, Mr. Ulrich Künker of Künker Auctions, one of the most reliable houses in Europe. Just an impeccable record. And if you are looking for a serious rarity, you may go no further in the next month. It's really exciting. So I can't wait for you to watch this interview. And please like, subscribe, put your comments into the video below, and we will try to answer. You're never going to see Mr. Künker in other podcasts. He told me that this was his very first podcast ever. So we are introducing him to the wide world of podcasting at the same moment as learning about coins and European history. It's pretty cool. I hope you enjoy. Today, Ursula has brought a special guest as well in Ulrich Künker. So Ulrich Künker is the president of Künker Auctions, which is headquartered in Germany and locations throughout Western Europe. Here in the United States, we know them as the largest auction house of numismatics in Europe, and they do an incredible job, and every year have wonderful auctions. And Mr. Künker has joined us today because he's got an incredibly exciting collection to talk about. We teased that up in the last time we spoke with Ursula. But it's also, I think it's really special just to have you as a guest today. Your schedule is incredibly busy. And, Ulrich, I think our listeners love to hear about stories of what's going on in Europe and what European dealers do and think about and how they see the market. So I hope we can talk about not only this amazing collection that you're working on, but also just to learn a little about you and what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you, John. It's exciting to be here. To be honest, it's my first live interview on the internet, and as we agreed before. So since the technique is working now, so the most challenging part is behind us, and what can I say? Most of the introduction was absolutely correct. So
Okay.
My name is Ulrich Künker. I'm working for Künker Auctions, which was founded by my father in 1971 as a regular coin dealing company. And so we started doing auctions in 1985. And besides auctions, we do bullion. We have a wholesale department for bullion coins, but today we are talking about the auction business, and we did so far more than 440 auction sales, just floor auction sales with a catalog. And besides that, we had like 90 online sales, e-live sales. And yeah, so I'm proud to be here, and thanks for giving me the chance to present myself, my auction house, and this special collection, the Imperial Collection.
Yeah, we're absolutely looking forward to hearing about the Imperial Collection. And before we dig into that, I had done some reading about Künker Auctions, and I saw that your father founded it, as you said, in 1971. And his interest in coins is very similar to the interest of most coin dealers, or how we all got into it, which is that his grandfather gave him a coin. Is that correct? I think I read that on the company website.
Yeah, that's correct. He had the choice to get an actual 5D mark from which he could buy something in the store, or an old one. And of course, you might guess he has chosen the old one and he studied it, and he felt in love with numismatics.
Yeah.
That's how it all started.
Right. And as I say, the rest is history. And it's just such a common theme, I think, among, coin dealers that I know, that we all got into this in some connection somehow, from parents or grandparents. So it's really interesting. It's the same everywhere is kind of what I'm getting to. So I'm really glad you're joining us. And let's talk specifically about this Imperial Collection that you are, cataloging and bringing to market. And I'm going to let Ursula lead with most of the questions since you're the expert in this area.
I wouldn't say I'm the expert. We are always waiting for your questions because they give us the American perspective. We might be too centered on everybody knowing already the history. I suggest that Ulrich explains a little bit about how the collection came to Künker, or perhaps I might start with the two collectors who are standing behind the collection, because honestly, that's quite fabulous. It gives us a chance to go directly into one of the most important courts in Europe at that time, to the leading heads of the state. It's a king of Prussia who collected coins, and it's an emperor of Germany who collected these coins and medals that are in the collection. So you can't get higher in society at that point of history when it comes to collectors. And this is very, very fabulous. Honestly, I don't remember that there was an auction with where the collection of a leading house of a big state has ever been sold. Ulrich, do you remember any?
Besides the famous sale Sotheby's has done in the Hanover region, so with coins, no. We did a few, like we sold out of the House of Württemberg. We sold a few coins and the line of Silesia, but an entire coin auction sale, or in this case, a medal focus sale, no, I'm not aware of something similar to that. That's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah. I remember that you had a few pieces from the King of Bulgaria. But honestly, in that time, Prussia was much, much more important than Bulgaria, or I would say it was the smallest state of the big five at that point, of France, Great Britain, Russia, Austria, the Habsburg Empire, and then it was Prussia. So it was one of the real big, mighty states at that time. And for me, it's so interesting because we know the history of these people. We know exactly how they felt, how they, we have a lot of information about them. And it's mirroring in the coin collection. So you have, perhaps I tell a little bit about the history of these two people. We have first Friedrich Wilhelm IV, the King of Prussia. He was the son of Friedrich Wilhelm III. I know there was a little fantasy in giving names. So he and his brother were born shortly before the French Revolution came. And they really were victims of this revolution. They themselves had to leave and flee from Berlin when Napoleon came into their city. They lost her mother due to the hardship of this time when they had to leave Berlin and going to the east. They really had suffered under the aggression of Napoleon, and they kept hating Napoleon, the revolution, and the French during all of their lifetime. What is interesting is that Friedrich Wilhelm was the older one. Wilhelm, who became the emperor of Germany, was the second son. And they had a completely different approach to policy afterwards. While Friedrich Wilhelm was a sort of romantic guy who wanted to have back the old times, have back the medieval spirit of relation, a direct relation between the king and the people, Wilhelm I was a military man who only believed in the strength of military, of weapons, and made his way by creating a military power that was incredibly strong at that point. He, the smallest part, Prussia, had military successes over the Habsburg Empire and then over France. So this was within a very short period of time that he built up the military. But I have the feeling, John, that you might have completely different questions as an American. So please ask.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting to point out, and again, Americans don't have the grasp of history of Europe. In some, there'll be some viewers here who know everything, and viewers like me who were amateur historians of Western Europe. And so what Ursula is basically alluding to is the fact that Prussia is becoming a military powerhouse in the early 19th century after Napoleon invaded and embarrassed the Germans to some degree. And then there's this hatred that stems from the German state of Prussia. And Prussia eventually is the unifier, and please correct me where I'm wrong here, unifies the whole country of Germany in 1871 under Otto von Bismarck, the general, and then becomes a country. And again, and when you say Habsburg, we're talking Austria, Hungary Empire, and the French. So you got the Austria-Hungarians on the one side of your country, and then you got the French on the other. Germany says, we must unify this country, make it strong, and Prussia is that power. So it all happens through Prussia, that Germany becomes unified, and to some degree, a very simplistic view. But this emperor now is also a great coin collector, as
Yes.
we're saying.
Yes. And thank you very much for giving a much, much better summary for Americans than I ever could, because I would be much, give you much, too many details. So
Right.
Thank you very much for helping.
That's all I can offer, actually. But it felt like I knew something, and that is a little bit of a glimpse, I think, into the American intellect, is to say that we are not really European history centric. So we don't think about things like that. We just always think that Germany always existed. Or if you asked, I think, the typical American, how long has Germany been a country? I don't know, 400 years, 500 years. We don't know. It's just 1871, and so. It's all quite interesting. And so the other thing I wanted to add was, you were saying, have we ever had an imperial ruler who collected coins or assembled a great cabinet?
I remembered also King Farouk of Egypt. That's enough.
Exactly.
That
Right.
The role of the emperor of Germany in the global history was much, much bigger than the King of Farouk in the 20th
Right.
century, or the King of Siam. So it's
Right.
really, we are in the center of making history. And who was making this history, he connected it. And for me, that's something incredible.
Unprecedented. So now we have so now we've laid the groundwork for the fact that the Künker Auction House has a collection that has been, when is the last time the coins in this collection were in the market, or and how were they assembled, is what I would ask you. How were they, did he get them were they gifted to him mostly? Did he buy them? Or, how did he assemble his coins?
Yeah, I can answer to that. So it's a part of everything. Some of the coins were just given to him as a present from friendly states. So, for instance, the sister of the two brothers. So Charlotte was the sister to Frederick William IV and William I. She was the wife of Nicholas I, being the emperor of Russia at the time. And so they were connected. And we know from the latest literature, from the most recent literature, that they were exchanging letters every week. And so it's not in published. Well, I couldn't find it, but I'm sure Charlotte knew that he was the two brothers were coin collectors, and so there's no surprise. There are some very nice some nice Russian, well preserved, rare coins in the collection, giving to Frederick William IV, probably directly by Nicholas I.
Ulrich, show
Amazing.
us, please.
That's one source.
You brought
Sorry?
the family. You brought the family ruble.
I can show the most famous piece here. That's, I don't know. Can you see it? Yeah.
We will
we
afterwards have a picture integrated in the show, so it will be not only in the slab but also the picture.
Yeah, that's one of the items. So it was given to Frederick William IV, and this is one of the most popular Russian coins in existence because it shows the family of Nicholas in the center, Charlotte, the sister to the two collector brothers, the emperor and his king brother. And this is the only coin having Nicholas I on a coin, actually. So this is very popular in Russian numismatics. And this very piece I could trace down in coin archives 5 other or 4 other examples, but this is the best one I could trace on the market for within the last 20 years. So and NGC did MS64s. I had a discussion with Steve Eichbaum about this, why they didn't give it a proof, and he said because the low mintage, they think they didn't make a proof, so they didn't polish the dies and the coin itself. So I don't know. So for me, it looks proof-like, but okay, fair enough. It's top population MS64, and I think it's a very, very nice coin. And this answers the question: where did they get coins from? So yeah.
So you're not the first dealer. I will just mention you're not the first dealer to complain about the grades at a grading service. I mean,
usually I'm very happy. So,
right.
But this I was discussing this because I actually expected a proofed grade, but okay, they graded it mint state, which is fair enough. But still, my point is, it's from my point of view, the best coin in existence from the type. Which
wow.
I could trace down.
So what is the estimate for that coin? And what do you estimate the value?
This one is estimated at 250,000 euros.
Okay.
And we sold once the type of the coin in 2012, and it fetched 650,000. And there were others on the market in Switzerland at Syncona, and one of them fetched 1.1 million. So this is quite an interesting and valuable coin. But this is just, you asked me the question, where did they get the coins from? This one was given most likely by another state, by another emperor. Others were bought, we know, from the books, from the family. They also bought some of the coins. They got donations, because all what we are talking now, when the Imperial Collection was actually on exhibit in the Hohenzollern Museum in the Montjou Castle in Berlin, in the center of Berlin. And they opened the museum in 1877, and it was called the Hohenzollern, the Family Museum, after the William I got was elected to be the emperor. He opened a family museum, and all the coins and medals were in the museum. And from the documentation, we know when and through whom they acquired the coins, and some of them were donated by friends, some were bought in the coin market, and some medals they just took out of the mint, of the Berlin Mint or other mints.
Interesting. So this coin, the collection is pedigreed, almost in the most impeccable manner, is what you're saying. We know that this incredibly famous coin, it couldn't have a better pedigree. It goes back to Russia. It's a gift from the Russian state. And I find it interesting. And I hope,
Russian state from Nicholas the First, who had this coin in hand. He was given by his finance minister, I think, 36 pieces. And
Yeah, the mintage was 36 pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
see from you have to imagine an emperor sitting there, the finance minister coming in, bringing 36 coins on the table, and now Nicholas the First is thinking, whom will I present with such a nice coin? And then he sends them to his family. And so one of them was sent to the brother of his wife. They knew he was coin collector. And so he directly received it with a nice letter of the emperor. Here is a coin, here you have it. And we know that from the papers of the Hohenzollern collection. So
Wow.
if you want to have a coin, the emperor of Russia had in his hands, that's it.
And so, all right. So you're telling me that this is the finest known of this
Yeah.
of this coin, has the finest pedigree of this coin, and the last one to sell that wasn't as nice sold for 1.3 million. And
1.1 to
one
be
point
exact. Sorry. Yeah.
is that okay? So not to split hairs. So your estimate at 250 sounds a little conservative, in my opinion.
Let's
Yeah,
put
you-
it like this. That's Künker policy.
Yeah.
We always
Okay.
in-
Well,
Yeah.
that's also interesting to point out here in the United States. It's something a little bit like a Sotheby's or Christie's, but more of the heritage or stats. Mostly the estimates will be a little, I would say, certainly higher. And if I'm going to take a guess, and I know nothing about this coin before today's conversation, my estimate is north of 2 million. Right? I mean, I just have to I say the market is wonderful. You know, the market for great rarities is as strong as we've ever seen it here in the United States. And I anticipate you would agree with me in Europe that the international market for rarities, for wonderful pedigrees, for everything that you're speaking of, this is a prize. And I would assume it's going to do quite well. And that's great. And the conservative estimate is, understood from a certain perspective, but I think it's going to do quite well. What else? What else comes to mind?
Can I just add? Can we stay for one more detailed
Yes.
piece of
Please.
knowledge with the
Yeah.
coin? Because
Yes.
in the center, can you see Charlotte, the
Yes.
wife of the emperor? So this coin didn't go into the mass production because the emperor didn't like the way his wife looked at the coin. So he said, okay, I like the idea of the coin and go ahead with it, but we need a different pair of dice because I don't like how my wife looks.
Hey,
She looked too old on the
Jim.
coin. I
Too
think
old.
that's
Chin, she had a
And-
double chin. And
oh,
she's
she
Yeah.
needs a.
her old. And I absolutely agree. I would do exactly the same if I was the wife of the emperor.
Of course, I would too.
Yeah.
Of course, I would defend my wife's honor and extra chin, and have that redesigned. So there is a type 2 of this coin. Then there is a second design.
5.
there.
There are 5.
There are in total 5 different family ruble types, but this is the most rarest one.
Interesting. I like that. That this
Yeah.
is the story. So this is what I am all about. I believe this is what coin collecting is really all about, is the story. Why do coins, people always want to know why some coins are worth millions of dollars and why others aren't, even if they're super rare. But what's great about this is the story, and the story you just made better, as far as I can tell, by telling me that the association of his wife and how he wanted to redesign it. So were the 5 designs basically to keep reworking Charlotta, or for other reasons?
For other reasons. So,
Okay.
but this was this is the most funniest part of the
Okay.
story of the family Ruble. But before we talk about more coins, before we forget to talk about it, the collection has a history itself, because it was formed as we said, by the kings and by the emperor, and they kept them. So we have stories and pictures of the coins on the desk. We know 1 or 2 coins were kept in the working room on this desk, so reminding Friedrich Wilhelm III on the death of his wife. He kept the medal on his desk, so in order to look at her. So that we know all of this by the books, and then 50 years later, 60 years later, the Emperor Wilhelm I had the idea of opening up the Hohenzollern Museum. So all the coins were brought there, the medals were brought there, they kept them in the coins in different rooms. I think it was ordered by the emperors and by the kings. So every king had his own room. And then Second World War came, and the Montbijou Castle was bombarded, and it burned down. And before they took all the coins and brought them into the basement of the Berlin Castle, which was also bombarded in 1945 and burned partly down, as we know, and they took it down later. But the Red Army took all the coins they could find and brought them over to Russia. And then, after I think 13 years, they brought them back, because now East Berlin was and Russia, they were friendly states. They brought back the entire coin collection, and we know from the book that they brought back everything, even the most rarest Russian pieces. They were returned to East Berlin, and they were kept in different museums, and they didn't touch the coins because they didn't know whom the collection belongs to, because it was uncertain about this Hohenzollern collection. And only last year they found a decision that there was a decision between the family of Hohenzollern and the state of Germany that they gonna split up the entire collection in actually 3 parts. One, the museum was able to pick whatever they need. I'm talking about the coin cabinet in the Bode Museum in Berlin. So they could fill up the holes they had. They had the first pick on the collection, and then the remaining part got back to the House of Hohenzollern, and they decided to take out another group of coins in order to fill up their collection on the Burg in Hohenzollern, on the castle of Hohenzollern, and the rest of it was consigned to us. And I can tell you, this is a detail, but we are still negotiating. So some coins they rather want to keep, and some go to auction. The first part is which we are bringing up right now in June. That's what it is. But we're still talking about this because they want to exhibit some of the coins.
Interesting. I'm glad you actually helped me understand better, because I thanks to Ursula, I visited the Bode Museum in downtown Berlin. In fact, by coincidence, that's a picture of it behind me. It's a beautiful, iconic building in Berlin. Anybody who's seen pictures of Berlin has seen this museum, not knowing what it was, and that is where there's a large, an amazing coin collection, mostly ancient medieval coinage, all the way through what they call contemporary, which we would call old. But Dr. Karsten met with me and explained exactly that the sourcing of many of the coins in the collection came from via Russia after World War II, where the Russians seized the coins before the bombing, took them to Russia, and then miraculously, all of them were repatriated to Germany, and that's what you're talking about. So that, and in our terms, that you're saying that the 2 museums got to cherry pick or first pick of the collection, and then you're auctioning off what they will allow you to sell. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I would
But
cherry pick. They fill their holes. And the advantage coin collectors was that there are still some things they had already, but that are so rare and that are so incredibly loaded with history that Ulrich, show us the Generalitätsmedaille. That's something that
Yeah,
really opens my heart as German.
right. So
The general's medal,
That's-
as you call it.
yeah, that's the one. That's a medal celebrating the victory over France.
Wow.
So in 1871, it has a mintage of 25 pieces, and I'm aware of, let's say, less than 10 pieces in some of them in museums. I would say it has 120 ducats, like 420 grams of pure gold, and some of them were melted down. I'm pretty sure, and this is the personal medal of the Emperor William I.
And
Case.
you asked before how the coins or medals came into the collection. And this is a very, very special story because this is a medal that William I had made. And we always, when we think of medals, we think of cases where medals were given and that's it. But medals were really part of ceremonies. And for that medal, we know exactly the background when this medal was, which role this medal was playing. After the victory over France, and more importantly, after the unification of Germany, Prussia had a great celebration of this unification. And they had an enormous parade, like the old Roman triumph, like they had a whole row that was built up with special statues, with pictures from the wall, with pictures from the unification, with people who were celebrating the troops coming in. There were various 10,000 soldiers marching through Berlin to celebrate this victory and unification. And the procession was led by 25 generals who were the generals in command. In front, there was an old general. Then they had a very, very an order, the order of rank. I'm not so good in military ranks, but I've heard that there is a very, very strict word is missing, hierarchy. And so they were marching in that hierarchy. And exactly that hierarchy you will find on this medal. The most important people on top, and then it becomes less and less and less, because all the names of the 25 generals are given on this medal. Only one general is not mentioned, and that's the one who is pictured in the middle, because William I was a very, very enthusiastic soldier. He started very young, and he always felt to be part of the military. So he is not given with his name, but with his portrait. And what I like, every soldier who entered Berlin was given 2 crowns, 2 thalers. Somehow like thank you for doing this. And all the soldiers were invited by Berlin citizens for dinner. So the generals, of course, were not invited by Berlin citizens, but by the emperor. And the emperor, of course, didn't give them 2 thalers, but he gave them this precious medal. And
Wow.
so you have this testimony of the war, of the victory, of the unification. And you have the very, very medal that William I had reserved for himself. So this is really wow.
And amazingly, you're saying that the museum had one, so they decided not to keep this coin
Yes.
or this medal, which is all right. So the medal tells a story. The medal is a tapestry of the history of the time, and this is how stories, like you're saying, how stories were told in this era. What year was the medal? Can you give us about the year, an approximation
It's
that we're talking about?
1870.
So this is the
1871.
Okay, so this is the Unification March,
Exactly.
celebrating the unification of Germany. Couldn't be a more significant event in modern German history, let's say.
Yes.
And you expect, will you be disappointed if a German doesn't buy this medal? I mean, do you expect that a German collector is going to want this?
Honestly, I don't. Now it's published. It's for me, it's the important thing that it is published, that people are seeing this piece. You see, what I think what makes auction business such a great business is that treasures that have kept hidden for decades suddenly appear on the market and tell a history, and do not only tell the history to the owner, but to a whole group of people. Who knows that the Berlin cabinet has one of these medals? Nobody is interested in. But now we come to the market. Now we see it. Now we get all these emotions that are bound in this medal. So I think that's the important part. And let's be honest, when it sells to the States, it will sell to the States, and at one point it will come back. The really advantage is that every coin is an ambassador of a history and of a culture. And I don't mind my cultural heritage being as an ambassador for a period of time in any country in the world. And in the end, it also will come back. We are not only thinking in a few years, we are thinking in centuries.
I mean, I love it. I mean, I was thinking to myself, that sounds very capitalistic of you, because a lot of us think of European collecting as being a little less capitalist than we are. Like, in other words, how much is that coin worth? If I get it in a higher grade, if I get it third party graded, it's worth more money. And European collectors have sort of been at arm's length with us, saying, listen, it's the coin, stop with the grading and so on, and but what you're saying, Ursula, is that the medal here, the collection itself, is all an ambassador, speaks to the world market and tells your story, frankly, in a way that museums don't. There's too many great museums, possibly. The book, like I said, most people don't realize how wonderful the Bode Museum is and may never realize it. But Künker Auction Company is bringing this to light. And that, listen, we're having a podcast about it. We're bringing some awareness. It's all part of the same story. So you slipped something in there. You said you're going to think it's going to sell to the States, United States. You think an American collector or did I get that right?
I have no idea, but I think this is an object which is very likely to be a wonderful investment product, an investment coin or a medal. Sorry, an investment thing. It's fantastically preserved. It has a provenance that is uncompared. And let's be honest, there are very, very few German collectors who have the means to compete to American or Asian collectors. So I have no idea where it's going to. I wish it could be a museum in Germany, but I don't see a museum in Germany that has the means to acquire a medal like this.
So, in other words, what we are doing here at Künker is we are selling history. and we send it to the highest bidder who is touched by the history the most, and he's willing to invest the money. And for me, as Ursula said, that those items are ambassadors of German or European history, and I'm absolutely fine if my countries or my continent's history is taken to other states, to other continents, and somebody is touched by it. And so I'm actually like to mix the cultures and the pieces of history. And
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I feel the same way. I think it's a really special. I think when you use the word ambassador, I just thought that I can't think of a better word than that. The coins tell the story of German history to the world, and we understand better. And maybe people watching this will say, I want to understand better about this whole unification thing and how it leads up to modern German history, which is what everybody's aware of. But there's so much richness back here. And I think all right, that coin, now we're coin weenies over here. So that coin is a large hunk of gold. How many grams did you say that was?
420.
420. 12 ounces,
Yeah.
give or take.
So 12 ounces, yeah.
That's like
over 14 ounces actually.
14 ounces. So that in itself is enormous. What is your estimate for this medal?
It has an estimate of 75,000 euros.
75,000.
Okay,
75,000.
that's for
Sign me up.
and for that, my opinion,
Okay.
simply a joke.
Right. I'll pay
Yeah,
80. I'll pay 80 right now.
Okay, I take this a bit. Yeah. Thanks.
Perfect.
So the last one, if you want to know, the last ones we sold were in the 120, 140,000 euro range.
And
I know the estimate is low, but this was agreed with the House of Hohenzollern before, so estimate needs to attract many people.
yes,
Of course. And
we have
Yeah.
to say that what is in this auction sale is, in my opinion, one of these things that are still undervalued. When we think of the rarity, when we think of the beauty, when we think of the historical importance, these are objects that right now are rather cheap when compared to what it is. And I think that has a kind of history, and we don't need to discuss why it is, why medals are still cheaper than coins, and why especially medals of the 19th century are not in the on the mind when people are thinking of really rare objects. But I think that's one of the fields I expect within the next decades really a development in price, because these objects are so incredible.
And they're so historically symbolic. I am not someone who's aware of medals so much, but Indian peace medals in the United States are a huge level of awareness. They tell the story, good or bad, of what occurred to the Native Americans of the United States during the time of westward expansion. And you're right, but we don't, as coin dealers in the United States, we don't typically think a lot about medals because they're not denominated, right? They're not spending money. But now that we're moving into a digital currency world, I think it's the right time to even think about medals as artistic beauty with the same level of story as you've described. So I think you're right. I think the time may be coming for medals to see that level of appreciation.
And when you see what happened to British medals, here we have already the development in going up in prices. British medals, therefore, because it's the same language. But I think that there are many, many German medals that are also appealing to a whole, to an international audience. And Ulrich, you always also brought this wonderful Cosmos medal of Alexander von Humboldt with you.
Of course.
That's my
It's right here.
personal
That's
favorite, and I would ask you to show the other side, because
which
It's
is
very, very.
even more beautiful. Oh, here we are.
Yeah. We will deliver photos, so you will see exactly the picture. And this is also this is coming from the possession of William I. It was made by his brother, Friedrich Wilhelm IV, and it remembers one of the most important scientists in the 19th century, Alexander von Humboldt.
He's not well known. So when you say
Oh,
Humboldt University of
yeah,
that name,
you are speaking today of ecology and ecosystems, and everything in nature is tied together. It was Alexander von Humboldt who had first the idea that it's not just describing a piece of nature, but nature is everything together. And in order to understand a piece of nature, you have to understand the whole system. And this medal is all about this thinking, this holistic thinking of the cosmos, of the universe. Alexander von Humboldt was by birth a Prussian. The Prussian ruler was his godfather, so he was close to the government, but his parents died so early because then he had the money which allowed him to travel. The books he published, they were read all over the world. He was one of the speakers that every city would be happy to have had. I would say in the 19th century, he was the most known scientist worldwide. And then he made all his traveling. He published his book, and then the money was gone because traveling was expensive now and then. And then the Prussian king saw a possibility to get his citizen back. He was a kind of an illustrious personality who attract attention. People would visit Berlin just to witness Alexander von Humboldt. One of the biggest attractions ever were his lectures, the lectures he called the Cosmos lectures. It was a little bit like what we are doing. The king, personally, Friedrich Wilhelm, who was very, very fond of his scientists, he made this medal to honor his scientist. And he had one medal struck in gold for Alexander von Humboldt. He had one medal struck in gold that was going to the Berlin coin cabinet. And when you ever have visited it, they have 4 columns of the leading objects, the most important objects of their collection. And one column is reserved to this very medal. And he had also made medals for, I suppose, him. I don't know that, but I know that he made one for his brother, William I. And that's the one for William I.
That's the one.
that's it.
And Ursula and I, we had a discussion in preparation of this. When was this sold last? And we know that the estate of Humboldt, he had no children, so it was sold. The remaining part, the coins, they couldn't get rid of it. They made an auction in his apartment where he died and where he lived last. And so they sold this one last time in 1860 in Berlin. And that's a piece of Humboldt, which never appeared again on the market. That we have the one at the Bode Museum.
Testimony, but
Okay. How much and how much in 1860 did it sell for?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would like to find out, but there was no list of result, and Coin Archives doesn't go back so far. But
problem is that this was not sold by one of the usual suspects, the coin dealers, but they sold the whole estate of Humboldt with a few coins. he Russian coins and a few medals. And so this was made by an auction house I personally never, ever had heard of. So
Okay.
so there is no catalog as far as I know. There is no price. There must be one, but I haven't seen it.
Interesting. So to our American viewers, this Humboldt is, I guess, we're talking about sort of the age of enlightenment, right? Where all of a sudden the world has generated these great thinkers. These
Little later.
Yeah.
Humboldt
a
is
little, right, a little after. But the world is sort of full of people, these new great thinkers who have great ideas. You know, it's funny. I just read for the first time Frankenstein, the original Mary Shelley version, which was 1815, I believe, that it published. And it's a lot of this kind of big fanciful thinking that was going on in Europe at that time, with ideas of like recreating life or ideas of cosmos or things like that. So it's a really interesting era, and Humboldt is memorialized to this day with the universities all throughout Germany. I know in Berlin or
not only the universities. There are so many geographic things that are named after him. Unfortunately I haven't looked that up, and especially not the English version. But there are so many parts of the world that are named after Humboldt. There are so many animals that are named after Humboldt. He was really the starting point of modern thinking of nature. And what I like is that the picture is exactly showing that. We have a big telescope in the middle that is looking at the stars. We have, I don't know the English word, the piece on ships where you can show how deep the water is.
Depth finder? I don't know.
Like that. I don't.
I should have.
In Germany it would be Senkblei, but I don't think that would help you. It's so he's looking at the sky. He's measuring the deep sea. There are animals on the coin. There are plants on the coin. There are all the stars of the universe, the zodiac around the coin. And there is, at that time, they had a symbol of nature. The Artemis of Ephesus with the many breasts, she established as a symbol of nature. And he is taking away the whale of this statue. So he is discovering the nature. So we really have a medal which is extremely rare, which is extremely beautiful. In my opinion, it's one of the most beautiful pieces of metallic art. That would be the yes, metallic art of the 19th century, and it's full of symbols. Honest, I'm in love with that.
Love it. Well, I mean, we could go on all of these for a long time, and I think what's important is that the viewer can see that there's so much history, there's so much depth to every one of these subjects, and medals typically do encompass a greater amount of history because coinage exists across usually a series of items. So obviously paying attention to every coin in the catalog. How many coins total in the collection that you're offering in June, or?
So it's 337.
337.
And may I use this occasion, this moment? So this is not the catalog, but this is how it's going to look like. So I think it's
beautiful.
Mirroring right now. Yeah. So, but it has the picture of William I, the emperor, and his brother, Ferdinand IV. And I don't know if you can read it, but the auction takes place in June, on June 23. And it starts very convenient for American bidders at 2 p.m. CET, so which is in New York, 8 a.m. So, and I'm kind of like the design of the catalog.
And
absolutely.
What stress is that for people who are not familiar with the history of Prussia and of Germany, Künker always tries to go the extra mile with the catalogs, which means that it's a history book too. It's not only a catalog; it's a history book. They have reconstructed the history of many pieces that are in this catalog, and they are giving the biography of many of all of the Prussian rulers. And what is best for Americans, there exists an English translation which can be accessed in the internet. So if you are interested in German history, if you are interested in the history of medals, please make sure that you are reading this. It's absolutely worthwhile. Whoops, I'm getting tired, I see. Worthwhile, that's it. And it gives you an impression how much is behind these medals. And
is there a PDF available that someone can easily access?
Yeah, we will publish it hopefully next Wednesday. So May 13 is the scheduled date for to bring this online.
And I'm sure
so
the link to it in the show notes of the podcast.
Absolutely. I mean, I am, I am extremely intrigued to see, the 300 lots in the sale, and I just want to know more about them. And I really want to understand and learn. If I can learn history through coins, I learn much better. I think that's what enables me. We're all different kinds of learners, and that's the way I learn. So typically I've learned American history, and I can associate it with a certain coin that I've bought and sold. And so I think this is really fantastic for our viewers. There's, according to my show notes, there's 2 more coins or medals that you wanted to highlight today. And I think in the interest of time, maybe we could just see those really quickly. Could we see?
So, yes. Thanks for giving me the chance. Because this is one of my favorite ones. This is the King Frederick William I, called the what's the English word? The king of soldiers, the Soldatenkönig. So he was fancy. He prepared the military for his. Actually, he never used the military. He was never in war. But and this is this is his troops. And in 1733, he had the idea to bring all the troops into the center of Berlin to demonstrate how strong he is, and that's celebrating this event. And when I got this collection, I picked it up in the Bode Museum, and I was working with the curators there, and they told me this one is the best in existence, and they know. They have one in their own exhibition, but this one is better. And it was pretty hard with a die of this size to make medals like this. I think it broke after a few strokes. So, and I couldn't trace another example on the free market.
Interesting. So that's your personal favorite, and
absolutely.
Now the fact that you don't have that in an NGC slab, is that because it's too large, or you just made decisions about which coins should be certified?
I picked up the collection in 2 installments, and the first one was in December. Then when I picked up most of the gold ones, and I had enough time to submit them to NGC.
I see.
And the silver items, or this item, the last one, I only got in late March, and it was too late to submit them. That's the actual reason.
That's one of the problems of European dealers, that NGC is not able to handle last minute consignments. And a lot of things would be graded in Germany today, I think, if NGC had an office in Germany where you really could get the coins quickly back. So that's one of the problems why some things might not be graded.
Well, Ursula, let's have that conversation on our next podcast. Let's get Max Spiegel from NGC on with us, and let's talk about that. Let's because I know they have an office in Munich, but they must ship everything to the U.S. Is it, just as a quick aside, is it possible to, if an American buyer wins an uncertified metal or coin, can you hand that to NGC and have it delivered certified in the United States? Is that a possibility for buyers?
Yeah, we have done this in the past.
That would be wise from my perspective, for me, if I bought a metal like that. All right, that's an aside. So, and there's one more item on the list, or
there
several, actually
more,
several. So let's go through those.
This is also one of the highlights. It's
okay.
On the remembrance of that's Frederick the Second, the large king who Frederick the Great, he's called in the history, and this monument was built in 1851, and Frederick William IV was the ruler at the time, and I think you can explain it a little bit better why they erased this monument.
I think that's one of the really, really interesting pieces, because it shows us how we appreciate history. I don't know, Frederick the Great, is he known in the US, or is he not known?
Oh, I mean, yes, that's a name that is extremely well known.
Name even an average American would have a chance to know. So it's to me, it's so interesting that he's the one and only Prussian king who is known, because before this monument was erected, it was not that way. He was something like a personal role model for the Prussian kings, but otherwise nobody really was interested in him. And after the erection of that monument, it was like everybody had somehow Frederick II in mind. It's a little bit like Jurassic Park and our appreciation of dinosaurs. When you look how that changed by this movie, you have the same phenomenon of Frederick II with this statue. Before, there were a few historians, a few kings, a few persons who who knew him. Afterwards, all the publications about him, all the pictures that show him, all the movies, every theater was bringing pieces on Frederick II. So this statue brought the king, made him posh, made him modern. And so we really see how one monument could change the complete view of a person in history. And I think...
and this is on the metal. Obviously, this is highlighted, this monument is highlighted on the metal. And how many are known? What a quick story on the metal's pedigree.
So we have handled 2 of the medals before, we have handled 2, and I'm aware of 3 in total.
Okay.
So 3 in total on the market, and there's 1 on the Bode Museum, and this is one of the 3.
So this is the third. You're going to sell the third of 3
on the market. Yeah.
And
nice. That's a feather in your cap.
Creator of the monument. We know that one was given to the king. We know that. So we know who received the medal. Yes. I want
Fantastic.
And if you visit Berlin, you're definitely going to see it, because it's on the street, on the famous old street in Unter den Linden, and it's in front of the Humboldt Museum, Humboldt University. You definitely will see this monument, and it's.
And my
I think
personal favorite story, if you're allowed to interrupt me, is that when the Japanese embassy, that toured all the world in order to find role models how to shape the new Japanese world. When they came to Berlin, they made Japanese wood prints of important views. And this very statue is shown on a Japanese wood print. So they thought it to be so important that they published it on their one of the very few wood prints that was illustrating Berlin at that time.
Interesting.
We're talking about 1873, by the way.
Okay. Thank you. I always really like to tie those things in. So the Frederick the Great medal, the third of three, and the other two you've sold. So you've got a good idea of where this one's going to sell. What are the other two have sold for? What are they?
So this is a while ago, and they fetched both of them 60,000.
Okay. So
But
all right,
60,000 euros.
good
yeah.
context.
Look
Yeah.
of the beauty of the medal. Look, I think that's underpriced. I think that's completely undervalued.
Of course. You know, price is always a function of demand and interest, and so and these are thin markets. I mean, it would only take two wealthy people to bring it to 600,000. It's just about generating this interest and awareness to the market. So I presume that's why we're talking about it today to some degree, but it's also, this is what's really great about the hobby. All right, what else do you have for us?
So I think this is also one very interesting item. That's a gold medal. On there we have Frederick William III and the Tsar, the Emperor Alexander. So, and it was produced and minted in 1818, celebrating the Allies against France and the victory against France. And what is interesting, it's this monument is celebrating this victory. And I personally used to live in Berlin. I studied there, and I started my career there. And I was living in Kreuzberg, cross mountain, and the name giving this monument gave Kreuzberg the name of the area so because you have the cross,
The victory monument of Kreuzberg.
Yeah.
And
A very popular neighborhood in Germany, in Berlin today.
And once again, we have to go into the ceremony. It's not only this medal that shows the monument, but this medal played a role. At that time, there was the Russian Tsar, there was the Prussian king, there were all the Prussian princes who came together in order to lay the foundation stone of that monument. This is a medal that was struck on the occasion of the laying of the foundation stone. And we have to imagine that there are 30,000 soldiers standing around, and there is in the middle this podium where the Russian Tsar is doing the first hammer strike on the stone, batch, batch, batch. Then the Prussian king is coming. And please note that the Russian Tsar is coming first. Then the Prussian king is giving a few hammer strokes in order to lay the foundation stone. And then the Prussian princes are coming. And the highest officials who were attending that ceremony, they received the medal in gold. The lower received them in silver and the lowest in bronze. So this is what these medals were made for. They were made as royal souvenirs to a ceremony. So you always have to keep that in mind when you look at a medal.
Yeah. And what year was this? What year did we lay this?
1818.
1818. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
And
So,
I only found one other example, which we sold 15 years ago in gold. So this is pretty rare.
pretty rare. So this whole collection is going to bring awareness to the metals collecting market, and we're going to and I'm going to predict that we'll see some records being broken and maybe the glass ceiling popped open for this kind of collecting. All right, what else? What else can we? I mean, I'm sure we could go through all 300 lots.
Yep. Okay. So, but we have. I think, this is one of your famous items.
This is another favorite item of mine. Because could you lift it a little bit more? That
sorry.
Reverse, yes. Because this is a funny story. We always think that medals were made in the year we are reading on it, which is completely nonsense. Because the date is only referring to the event they are remembering. And this is a good example for that. Because this Congress in Aix-la-Chapelle was very important historically. We won't deal with that. It was about after the end of the war against France, how do we manage the practical aspects of sorting out who is where and so on, where's the military, and we do not need to recapitulate the Congress, but what is important is that at this Congress, there was a meeting of really highest diplomats. The Emperor of Russia was there, the Emperor of Austria was there, the Prussian king was there. It really was high diplomacy. So 1 year later, the King of Prussia received a letter that it would be a nice idea of striking a medal on that Congress. It was a citizen of Aix-la-Chapelle who told him that this could be a nice idea. And the king said, okay, yes, nice idea, let's do it. He asked his academy to give him an idea what could be on the coin. And they said, okay, we have an idea. We will do on the front side the 3 emperors who were present. On the back side, we will have the personification of the city holding this chapel in which Charlemagne, is that the English word? Charles the Great?
Well, we say Charlemagne or Charles, right?
In Charlemagne was made emperor. So, okay, it came back and the king said, no, that does not work. There were also France and there were also Great Britain. We can't have 3 emperors on the medal, which I will send to 3 rulers on the medal, which I will send to Great Britain and which I will send to France. So he asked his favorite architect, Schinkel, who in Germany is a big deal. When you look at a certain period, he designed everything. So he asked his architect and he made the final design for this medal, which was then brought to the mint and they made out of his design a die. And this medal was struck, not with the 3 portraits of 3 rulers, but with a wreath that was showing the coat of arms of all important participants. So I think that's really interesting that we have a medal where we can exactly follow how diplomatic thinking of that period of time was going and how they thought they needed to change the pictures in order not to offend any state.
Right. The whole story is mixed in there, and that is the Congress of Aachen. And what year? I couldn't read that on the. What year was the Congress?
It's also 1818.
Also in 1818.
1818. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot going on in this era.
To the Congress, and then he went to Kreuzberg in order to lay the foundation stone of the monument.
Interesting. Okay, so what all of this is in the wake, I guess, of Napoleon, terrorizing the continent, and now everybody in Germany is starting to say, we don't want this to happen again, right? This is kind of the simplistic American version of the events. we don't want this to happen again. This French nation state coming along and terrorizing us. We're going to get stronger. And Prussia says, we're going to lead the way within the country or within the independent states, the Germanic states. And this kind of begins all of modern German history. For those of you who are interested in learning more, it kind of starts with Napoleon's, to my mind, it starts with Napoleon. One last item. We have time for one last item. What can we look at?
That's a very tiny one.
Okay.
South African pond.
Okay. Looks proof.
The famous Kruger pond.
This pond. It's a South African coin, a very, very rare South African coin with also a wonderful story. I really encourage you to read the catalog because it's a marvelous story of a president of South Africa. I'm sorry, Transvaal. Of course, not South Africa, but Transvaal, who saw that his country needed money. So he went to the gold fields of South Africa, the early gold fields. He bought gold there, had it sent to Great Britain, had coins struck there, which he thought could be the currency of his country. So he came back, he distributed that into the parliament. And you have to think of these old Boers who all were very, very religious, having very, very fixed ideas of modesty. And now they had a coin with their president's head on it. And they said, no, we don't want to have the head of a living being, of a human being, of our coins. It was a huge discussion. In the end, they accepted it's only a few. I don't remember the number. How many of these first coins? And
the mintage of the type is 900, but this is the second type because the die broke, and they made 174 out of from those dies. So this is two types, and this is a rarer die type of the two.
Yeah,
the coarse bird.
And they made these, let's say, roughly 1,000 coin currency, and said, no, we don't continue minting it. It's finished. So it's one of these also really, really nice stories, which I really like, because I just imagine this president of this young state going to the gold fields. And I have been in the very city where he bought this coin, this gold, and buying the different nuggets in order to have coins for his country struck. I think it's incredible.
Right. And they said, no, can't put no pictures, no likeness on the coin, makes it rare, very interesting. And the year of this coin is
1874.
1874. Okay. So, obviously we know what era the collection was made. That'll surely see spirited bidding. We know that it's, South African, Transvaal coinage. That's always, to my knowledge, that's always extremely popular, as a British colony and collectors and things like that. So that's exciting. Well, listen, I know that we could go through just about every coin in this famous collection and tell this kind of a story. And I believe that's what we're trying to do, is shed light. And, we've highlighted a half a dozen coins here, or metals, that are very valuable. But not all of them will be that valuable in the collection. They'll all be expensive to some degree for people with budgets. But if you're interested, certainly we'll put the link of the catalog in there, and I'm sure you can write to the Künker house and ask maybe for a catalog to be mailed to you if you're a potential bidder and things like that. They would love to hear from you, I'm sure. And this is just what an honor for you to be entrusted with the state collection, as I see it. And I think it's a tremendous honor. And it's a tremendous honor for me to be a part of the conversation with you. Ulrich, it really is. I mean, it's special, and I appreciated very much your time. And I hope that the viewers of a podcast like this here in the United States, especially, will also be interested and ask us questions. Ursula will answer any that are directed towards us. And, we're I really appreciate it. So, do you have any thoughts in closing before we say goodbye?
Yeah, thanks to both of you. First, John, thanks for giving us a chance to present this exciting collection, the Imperial Collection. But as you might have noticed, Ursula is very much attached to this because she wrote all the interesting background information. So, and thanks, Ursula, for doing that. And it's really fun to listen to you because she did all the research on all the items, and and thanks for that.
Mm-hmm. You can feel the love, right? That's why I love talking to Ursula. We can feel the love of the hobby and the history. So for sure.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to everybody contacting us. Please get in touch with us if you want to receive a catalog, or if you have questions for specific items or the sale in January. So we are here, customer care department is here for you. Thank you.
Super. Ursula, thank you again. And thank you.
Was
Auf Wiedersehen.
I would like to thank Ulrich for taking the time, especially in a time where he has really to be at all sides. So this was really difficult to find the time with him. And I have to repeat something. Coins are ambassadors. And therefore, for me, it's the most important that, like in the 19th century, collectors are having them in hands and they can circulate freely in order to spread our history. I hope that this collection will inspire a lot of collectors who have never before heard about the 19th century history of Germany, who have never before been so deep in metal art, that they will see and learn something about these objects and will perhaps share my enthusiasm for that. So if a little bit like that would happen, it would be great for me.
How could we not? You're infectious. We look forward to reviewing the results after the first sale. Let's promise to meet again because, like you said, it's in multiple parts. So I look forward to discussing the part 2 and reviewing part 1.